the games continue. Last night, the results of New Hampshire's primary came in, and if you flipped between any of the channels between last night and continuing on to this morning, believe me, it's the only thing that the mainstream media was talking about.
Mitt Romney's big win in New Hampshire. He cruises to a first-place finish with just about 40% of the vote.
Libertarian Ron Paul pulling in second. John Huntsman, who staked his candidacy on New Hampshire, could only manage third.
The man of the hour in New Hampshire and Iowa so far has been Mitt Romney.
Mitt's momentum may be hard to stop, but his challengers are trying.
Big win, clearly, last night on a lot of measures for Mitt Romney last night.
On to South Carolina with a Republican field that's dominated by two-time winner Mitt Romney.
That's right. It's on to South Carolina now. On to the next one. They made one little exception of allowing other coverage to seep in today by providing perhaps a 2-minute or a little minute of space for big news that came out of Tehran.
A top Iranian nuclear scientist assassinated. Reports say he'd been working at a key nuclear facility there when he was targeted in a car bombing.
Violence in Tehran overnight as an Iranian university professor working on a key nuclear facility there was killed in a targeted bombing.
His death is similar to previous killings of scientists working on Iran's nuclear program. Always a mystery, always raises a lot of questions.
An Iranian scientist that worked at a key nuclear facility was killed in a bomb explosion this morning that Tehran says is part of a widening clandestine campaign by the West aimed at crippling Tehran's nuclear program.
It was a magnetic bomb that was attached to the car. Apparently, both the professor and his driver were killed.
That's right. Another nuclear scientist in Iran mysteriously killed. Now, it's not a one-off. Quite the opposite. This is clearly a trend that's forming. It is a sustained campaign, but who's waging it? Well, nobody really knows. Although if you consider who the biggest warmongers are about Iran, who's most concerned with their ability to acquire nuclear weapons, you can't deny that U.S. and Israel might fit the bill. You can't help but recount cyber warfare in the form of Stuxnet or the downed U.S. drone that had been flying over Iranian airspace. The fact that our military has Iran surrounded and is only expanding that presence. Now, there are a lot of questions to be asked there, and yet compared to the campaigns, this story barely even made a blip on the mainstream media's radar today. Odd considering that when the IAEA released a report late last year that fit right into the agenda of stoking the fires, making everybody fear Iran, then the coverage was wall-to-wall. The mainstream media circus went full force.
Iran, now capable of building an atomic bomb.
That's the disturbing conclusion of a detailed new report by the International Atomic Energy Agency.
High-speed detonators, experimentation with uranium and other materials.
Iran closer than ever to developing a nuclear weapon and a way to launch it.
And in fact, may be working on that right now.
Scientists from the former Soviet Union, from Pakistan and North Korea have helped Iran master critical steps needed to build a nuke.
So why now, when there are serious questions to be asked about the legality, the reprehensible nature of killing nuclear scientists, is the media not showing any outrage, any fear? Well, when you stop and think about it for a moment, then you can remember that assassinations are not really the kind of thing that bother them all that much. Sure as hell didn't bother them when the President of the United States assassinated a U.S. citizen through a drone strike in Yemen without any due process. And it really doesn't seem to bother them either when some of the leading GOP candidates that are running for president seem to themselves suggest that we, the United States, should run more covert operations against Iran, including the disappearing of their nuclear scientists.
You know, there are a number of ways to be smart about Iran and relatively few ways to be dumb, and the administration skipped all the ways to be smart.
Could you tell us the smart ways,
sure.
Mr. Speaker?
First of all, maximum covert operations to block and disrupt the Iranian program, including taking out their scientists, including breaking up their systems, all of it covertly, all of it deniable.
When I say that Iran is not getting a nuclear weapon, that we will actually effectuate policies that make that happen. This president has not done that. Every foreign scientist that's going into Iran to help them with their program, you will be treated as an enemy combatant, like an al-Qaeda member.
It's a sick, sad world that we live in. Newt Gingrich actually gets laughs when he brings this stuff up. So anyway, if you still had any questions in your mind as to where the mainstream media stands, where their moral compass lies, I'm pretty sure that they lost it a long time ago. But it's a clear example in their apathy towards the increase in killings of Iranian nuclear scientists that they don't even care to ask real questions anymore. They're lazy, they're complacent. when the State Department does make a statement condemning those killings, as they did today, the mainstream media reported it verbatim and moved on. No statement from Obama or Hillary? Well, they wouldn't have even noticed that. The notion that some of those that are running for president are openly advocating for killing nuclear scientists in Iran, that our current president may already have something to do with that we're flying spy drones over the airspace of another sovereign nation, that does not bother the mainstream media one bit. And it's funny, too, because it used to. As Glenn Greenwald pointed out today, and as we'll discuss later in the show with Scott Horton. But I think that you and I both know how the story would be played if it were happening on our soil. Not only would it be called terrorism, it would be considered the start of a war. But that kind of comparison, any kind of reflection on how our actions might affect the world, how they might be perceived, well, that's what they choose to miss.